Surveillance needs for embankment dams. Like concrete dams, embankment dams require a sound dam safety programme with regular and systematic surveillance and maintenance activities to ensure the continued safety of the dam. Surveillance of embankment dams should mainly focus on the following leading indicators of potential dam failure: seepage, settlement and sliding, wave damage, internal erosion, piping, slopes erosion, vegetation growth and animal burrowing activities. Vegetation cleaning of both embankment slopes, but also at the downstream toe, is vital to allow dam inspections and monitoring in optimal conditions. Living with dams. Dam safety programs have primarily been concerned with the prevention of dam failure and the long-term integrity and safe operation of the dam and appurtenant works in compliance with the regulatory framework. These are typically focused on assuring the structural integrity and protection of downstream populations from catastrophic flooding resulting from a dam breach. Over the years, however, there has been an increase in casualties resulting from misoperation, such as sudden increases in turbine discharge, opening of spillway gates without proper downstream warning and patrolling, and other events associated with dam operations. This has been accompanied by heightened public interest in recreation and water sports, with much of this taking place in lakes formed behind dams and in downstream reaches of the river, which leads to risk of accidents even during normal operations. Dams and public safety hazards. Even if there is no dam failure, the operation of spillways can generate flooding and public safety hazards. These releases can either be planned or in response to emergency situations. During times of extremely high flows into a reservoir, it may fill to its maximum capacity, necessitating releases of large quantities of water that can flood areas downstream. Users downstream can be caught unaware when a spillage event occurs, leading to tragedy. For this reason, sirens are often installed around dams to warn the public of an imminent release, and in normal conditions, gates are typically opened in a gradual manner to avoid a flood wave downstream. Public safety hazards can also arise from simple lack of knowledge, reckless behaviour, or inadequate warning and safety signage. Each year and all over the world, boaters, swimmers, fisherfolk and recreational users of rivers and reservoirs are involved in fatal accidents owing to tail race discharges and interacting with water diversion or intake structures. From a public safety perspective, low-head dams, weirs, are considered especially dangerous because they attract recreational water users and are difficult to see from upstream. Managing public safety around dams. Dam owners, as part of their responsibility for the safe management of dams, must take measures to guard the public from hazards associated with dams and their operations. Ideally, this involves a systems approach, in coordination with government and community stakeholders, which begins with the identification of potential threats to the public. A plan to address those hazards should be developed and implemented. This includes a mix of physical investments, such as safety barriers, safety signage and warning systems, and non-physical investments in public education and awareness raising. Monitoring and incident reporting is also critical to measuring success of implemented measures and for documenting important lessons. Enhancing community awareness of dam safety and public safety risks. Establishing a safety culture around dams begins with early and frequent communication with community stakeholders to ensure they are aware of the risks associated with potential dam failure and the normal operations of dams in their community. Adequate stakeholder assessment should also be undertaken to tailor the means of communication to the target audience. Dam owners and emergency managers may use various media, such as brochures, social media, outreach to local associations and others, to raise public awareness. Prior to or during an emergency, communication must be timely. It may be necessary to use multiple platforms to reach as much of the at-risk population as possible. These may include press releases or mass notification systems, such as voice calls, text messages, or other emergency broadcasts. In some jurisdictions, local government authorities or dam operators themselves manage notification systems to alert community members when dam releases are occurring, in the case of ungated spillways, or planned to occur in the case of gated spillways. Managing disasters and building community resilience. In preparing for a potential flooding event that could be caused by dam failure or emergency releases of water, communities and local authorities can utilize the principles of integrated disaster risk management. 1. Early warning. 2. Vulnerability assessment. And 3. Risk mitigation and response. An emergency preparedness plan for a dam contains provisions for notification and early warning systems, including when to activate them and who is responsible for doing so. As part of the EPP, the dam owner should also carry out a dam break analysis and inundation mapping exercise. This will show the spatial and temporal extent of the flood, as well as provide an estimate of the number of people and structures that are vulnerable. Dam owners have responsibility for taking measures to reduce the risk of a serious dam incident, but there is more that communities can do to ensure a more resilient recovery after a disaster. Communities should work with dam owners and operators to understand all purposes of local dams in order to plan for impacts to their communities beyond flooding damage. This may include, for example, reduced power generation or water supply, or loss of recreational areas. Together with local authorities, communities can plan for alternative ways of accessing critical services. Emergency management agencies and other parts of local government may also invest in risk reduction solutions, such as relocation of vulnerable populations or creation of retention basins downstream of a dam to limit flooding from a dam breach. Community leaders should make sure that risk mitigation strategies and response efforts are inclusive, recognizing the specific needs of vulnerable groups such as the poor, the disabled, and minority groups. Well done! You've completed all the learning modules. On your journey through the different parts of this river basin, you will have learned about some of the ways a dam can fail, the potential consequences of failure, and what constitutes good international industry practice when it comes to dam safety management. While dam owners are primarily responsible for dam safety, reducing risks associated with dam failure is a shared responsibility with key roles for operators, regulators, emergency managers, and communities. Learn more by visiting the many resources available.